morning, everybody. This is Michelle with Creative Operation and Country Craft Creations, and today I wanted to share with you a quick tutorial on how I go through the process of making my stacked waterfalls. I've had a couple questions about it, and I just wanted to show you how I kind of think about it and how I figure it out, and we'll put a couple together. Just wanted to share with you what my process is. So I have kind of started doing this because it is a lot easier for me to make sure everything stays straight. Now, the traditional waterfalls are basically pages that you add a 1/2 inch tab to, and then you glue them onto a base so that you can create the waterfalls. And it's a great system, and it works really well for a lot of people. But I have always had trouble, like if my papers are crooked or whatever, and there's a lot of fiddly pieces. So I started doing this method, and it works really, really well. So what I'm talking about with a stacked waterfall is that the pages, if you turn them over, we'll look at the biggest page here. It is one piece of paper, and then basically you make smaller pieces of paper and stack them together, as you can see, and create the pages of the waterfall. So you have you just basically stack them together. So instead of having, like, this is an 8-page waterfall, instead of having 8 pieces that you have to glue onto a base, you basically only have 4 pieces, and you don't need a base. So I found that this is a little bit easier for me to do, and I end up getting it a lot straighter, and it works out really nicely. So let's go through the process. I'll show you how to do an even number of pages, and then we'll talk about how to do an odd number of pages if that's what you want. But let's talk about a few things. So we traditionally use 12 by 12 pieces of paper. So the tallest page that you can go is a 4-inch page. So that does hinder what you can do. So if you wanted to make a bigger or a wider page, I guess you could say, that's bigger than 4 inches, then you will need to go to this method of creating individual pages. But if you don't want to go any wider than 4 inches, you know, that's the biggest you can do for the most amount of pages. I hope that makes sense. Because when you measure this out for an 8-page waterfall, this is 11.5 inches. So that's all you can get. Okay, so what I do usually, so like the example I'm using is for a 4x6 page for a waterfall. So this is kind of a side view here that I wanted to talk about. So if you look at the side view of the waterfall that I made, and again, these pages are 4x6. So you've got the 4-inch here, and then you have your spine, and then you have a 4-inch here. So if I wanted to make an 8-page book, which I kind of drew out the diagram here, you have your 4-inch page at the top and the bottom, and then you have the spine piece. Okay, the spine piece is this back page right here that everything kind of gets stacked onto. So this is what you would glue to your page. When you fold the top pages down, you have your bottom page here, you have your spine. Okay, we're going to make one of these too on camera, just so you know. And then I use a 1/2 inch gusset. Now, if you use a smaller gusset, you can go ahead and make it a little bit bigger, but I am going with a 1/2 inch gusset right now. So if you just draw out your diagram and kind of decide how big you want your gussets, that'll help you decide, you know, how big you can make your pages. Okay, but for my example, a 1/2 inch gusset is kind of the traditional go-to, so that's what I use. So you have your 4-inch page on the top, you have your 4-inch page on the bottom, and then you put a 1/2 inch in between all of your pages. So again, this is for 8 pages total, and you count that up. That gives you a 3.5 inch spine. So 4 plus 3.5 plus the 4-inch page down here gives 11.5 inches. So for a 6-inch wide page here, that's 4 inches tall, you would cut a piece that's 6 by 11.5. Now, the next size here, that's in the middle, if you subtract these two, okay, and you're looking at the next page, you have the 2.5 inches. So 4 plus 4 is 8, plus 2.5 is 10.5. So that's how I figure out the pages. So for a 4x6 8-page waterfall, these are the pieces you're going to need to cut. So it takes 2 pieces of paper to do this, 2 12 by 12 pieces of paper. So you would cut all of them at 6 inches wide, and then one of them will be 11.5, one will be 10.5, one will be 9.5, and one will be 8.5. Okay? So that all being said, if you wanted to just make it a 6 inch, or excuse me, a 6 page, and not do this extra page, if you wanted just a 6 page, then you would just start at the 10.5, okay, because you only will need a 2.5 inch spine, and you would start with 10.5, and then 9.5, and then 8.5. And I hope that makes sense. I'm going to leave this up for just a second. Let's get this one out of the way for just a sec. And let's go ahead and build one, and I'll show you what I mean. So please feel free to stop the video and, you know, write this down. I don't have it available as a printable. So yeah, you can stop the video and kind of write this down, but I hope this makes sense. So I've got my pieces cut, and so again, they're going to be a 6 by 11.5, and then a 6 by 10.5, and then a 6 by 9.5, and then a 6 by 8.5. So these are going to be the pages. This is going to create an 8-page waterfall. Now, if you only want a 6-page waterfall, just start with the 10.5. You don't need the 11.5 inch page. Okay. So then what you're going to do is, since my pages are going to be 4 inches by 6 inches, you take each of the pieces and you put it in your scoreboard, and you just score at 4, and then you turn it and score at 4 again. Okay. And do that for all of your pages. And that's all the scoring that you're going to need to do. So then what I do is, I'm going to turn this to the side here and start with your bottom page. We should fold and burnish, because that does tend to help you see where your score lines are. Okay, and then what I do is I lay it in my scoreboard with kind of the inside up, and then grab your second piece. We'll go ahead and quickly fold and do that so I can see. So I usually use glue. You should use glue for this, but for the tutorial purposes, I'm just going to use some score tape just to get it to stick down. Okay. And I use art glitter glue, and of course that works like the best ever. But then what you're going to do is take the next size piece. So we've got our 11.5 inch piece at the scoreboard, and the scores should line up at the 4 and at 7.5 here. So what you're going to want to do is take your piece and fold one of the pages down, and then just stack it. And you're going to stack it 1/2 inch down from that score, and try and make sure you line it up. And of course, I'm not going to, because I'm doing it during a tutorial, but there you go. So then when you open this page up, you'll see that there's a 1/2 inch gap here and a 1/2 inch gap here. That's what you want. Okay. So then next page, again, we should fold and burnish properly, but for tutorial purposes, I'm doing it rather quickly. And then go ahead and apply your adhesive. And in real life, for a real album, I would use art glitter glue. All right, and make sure this is all lined up. So then this next score here should be down at 4.5. Make sure everything's lined up. Fold your page over, and then go to the 5 inch mark. Okay, so you still have your 1/2 inch gap. Okay, your 1/2 inch gusset space. All right, and so on. And that's what you do to make the stacked waterfall. It's really super simple. And the other benefit of doing it this way is that when you're done with it, if for some reason your trimmer didn't trim exactly right, as far as, you know, the sides might be a little off kilter, you could go ahead. This edge should be pretty flush. If you have some extra pieces hanging over on this side, you can put it back in your trimmer and you can trim it up. Now I know mine's crooked because I did it really quickly for the video, but this will give you your 8-page waterfall. And then you just glue on this spine piece back here, and then you can imagine if it's glued down, then you have all your pages that will turn, and then even the back page will turn up, okay? And you don't need to have a base piece, because this can glue right to the page. Now, the other thing that you can do, which I'm doing in an upcoming tutorial, is I'm going to glue this whole back side down so that bottom page won't flip up. And then if you do it that way, then you could add a closure down here. But if you wanted to do something like a ribbon closure or add a magnet closure lower on the page, then you can leave this one free and it can flip up. So anyway, that's an 8-page waterfall, a stacked waterfall. And again, if you want only 6 pages, then all you have to do is just skip this 11.5-inch page and just go with the 10.5-inch page. All right, I hope that makes sense. Now, the other thing you need to keep in mind is the height of your book and your book pages. An 8-page book is going to be if you use a 4-inch page, of course, is going to be 7.5 inches. So that's something else that I usually try to kind of figure out based on the height of my pages. So an 8-page book will be 7.5 inches. A 6-page book will be 6.5 inches tall. Okay, this way. So other things to think about. Now, you can also do it sideways, and depending on, you know, the layout of your book, so you don't have to do it up and down. You can do it totally sideways too and have a sideways waterfall. Okay, so that's that. This is again limited in the size that you can make, because the biggest basically is a 4x6 page that you can make, and the biggest one you can make is an 8-page waterfall. But you can do 4, you can do 6, you can do 8. It's very versatile as far as that part goes, and you can do it landscape or you can do it portrait. So that is that. Now let me show you how to make an odd paged waterfall, because I've done this before too. You may want an odd page waterfall at some point. So again, what I did was I kind of draw out this little schematic here to show you what I do. So again, this is going to be for 6x4 pages. So the side view here is, you've got your 4 inches, which corresponds to the height of your page here. Okay. And then, so since it's an odd, you can see that there's this one here, this one here. The middle one is the odd one. Okay. So when you count this up, it basically takes a 1/2 inch off of the spine here, because you're doing an odd page instead of the even page. I hope that makes sense. But if you look at this, the page here is 4, down below the page would be 4, and then this biggest spine would be 3 inches if you're going to go with 7 pages. Okay, so you just cut your pages 6x11, 6x10, 6x9, and then the middle page, which is the odd page, is 6x4.5. That's a single page. So that's the only one that you'll have to kind of piece together. 5 pages would be 6x10, 6x9, and 6x4.5. And I'm going to show you that in just a second. We're going to build one of these. So then when we talk about overall height, if you're using the 4-inch pages, then it would be 7 inches, and 5 pages would be 6 inches. Okay, so again, depending on the size that you're looking for, you can do different sizes. You can do them smaller. You could even do them wider if you wanted to, and make this, 4x12 if you wanted to. But this is how you would make an odd number. So let me put this right here, and then again, you guys can stop and freeze that, write that down if you want to. And then let me get my pieces for my odd page. So again, I've got a 6x11, a 6x10, a 6x9, and then I have my 4.5, 6x4.5. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to stack them. Now these spines here will be different sizes, so we're just going to go like we did before. and grab our next piece, our next longest piece. So we've got the 11 on the bottom. We've got our 10-inch piece here. And we're going to do this again. In your other albums, I would recommend you use glue, not score tape, but for tutorial purposes. So again, the scores, we scored them all the same. We put them in, scored them at 4, turned it, scored it at 4. So they're the same size pages that we just did. Make sure that this is flush and line this up so that this score here is at 4. This score here is at 4.5. Okay, and then open it up, add our next page. And we'll do this, put more adhesive on. And I hope this makes sense on how to figure this out. And I'm a real visual person, so every single time I write this out, because it depends again on the size of the pages that you want. You may want a 3x5, so you just have to kind of draw it out and figure that part out. Okay, so now we've got our 3 pages, our our 11, our 10, and our 9. Now we've got to add that single page. Now this is different in that you notice that this is a bigger spine here in the middle. In the one we just made with the even pages, the middle spine is a 1/2 inch. That's what you want for a 1/2 inch gusset. But on this one, we have an inch gusset. And so how we're going to fix that and add that middle page, we got our little piece that we did, 4x6 page. We added the 1/2 inch tab, and we're just going to stack that in the middle. And if I could find the end of my score tape, we will do that. So I'm just going to put a little piece here. And what you're going to do is you're going to just line up the edge of that tab right at the edge of the score. And that's going to give us our middle page. Okay, just like that. Okay, so as you can see right now, we put that right in the middle of that 1 inch space, and we've got a 1/2 inch gusset here, and then we'll have a 1/2 inch gusset here. So that's how you add or how you do an odd number page if that's what you want. Okay, I hope that makes sense, because I mean, I love making my waterfalls like this. I just really think that this is the most awesome way to make them. Works really well for me. And then again, with the odd number pages, again, you can just glue here, and then you have all of your pages free, to flip up. And if you want to, the other option is that just glue this whole thing down, and then you can add your closure, under here, and then do that. And then the other really cool part is that, yes, you do have a 1/2 inch gusset here, but like we all do, you put a little strip of pattern paper here. So that will be, in continuity with the other strips of paper that you put here. So it just kind of keeps the flow of your waterfall, I think. So that's pretty much it. I hope this makes sense. I'll put these papers right here, so if you missed it or you want to screenshot this or whatever, you can. But this is kind of my method of doing the stacked waterfalls. I really hope this made sense to you. It's a really good system. And again, the examples here are 4x6 pages. You can do different sizes. We are limited by the 12x12 paper that we have, but it can be done. And I think it works really, really well. So thanks for watching. I hope that you have a really, really good day. And stay tuned, because I have more tutorials coming. Thanks. Bye-bye.